Good afternoon. Welcome to the November 4th meeting of the Yakima School Board. A few preliminary announcements. We offer Spanish interpretation services from Jorge with Language Connection. If you need translation assistance in person, please check with Jorge for a device. And Jorge, please translate this information.
Para aquellos que necesiten de la ayuda de un intérprete, tenemos los radios disponibles y yo para ayudarles. Gracias.
Gracias por tu ayuda. We provide live streaming for the meeting. The link can be found on our webpage under Board of Directors or by going directly to www.ysd7.org/board meetings. If you wish to make a public comment today, there are two options available for you. The first option is for commenting on agenda items only, and the second option, which comes toward the end of the meeting, is for all other topics. In order to speak today, you will need to sign two forms, a sign-in form and the guidelines form. If you are interested in watching past meetings, you may find them on our webpage's YSD YouTube channel. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Present.
Director Navarro Jr.? Vice President Villanueva?
Here.
President Walker? And Director Rice is absent.
Thank you. Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready to begin?
Correction, Director Rice is in attendance.
Welcome, Martha. Today's November's character word is kind, showing compassion, friendliness, and consideration toward others. En español, amable, mostrando compasión, amabilidad y consideración hacia los demás.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
Hoy las escuelas del Distrito Escolar de Yakima descansan en las tierras ancestrales de las 14 tribus y bandas confederadas de la nación Yakima.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
La gente de la nación Yakima habitó más de 10 billones de acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties.
En los condados de Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Grant, Franklin, Kittitas, Klickitat, y Yakima.
Today we honor those native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture.
Hoy honramos a estos pueblos originales que están vinculados en la tierra a través de historias, leyendas y culturas.
We acknowledge our descendants who live in the world today.
Reconocemos a sus descendientes que viven en el mundo de hoy.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Agradezcamos a los guardianes de la tierra, quienes han vivido aquí y continúan viviendo aquí, desde tiempos inmemoriales.
An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
Un reconocimiento es una manera simple y poderosa de mostrar respeto.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase indigenous peoples' history and culture.
Y un paso hacia la corrección de las historias y prácticas que borran la historia y la cultura de los pueblos indígenas.
It also honors the truth.
También honra la verdad.
As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Como distrito escolar, continuaremos fortaleciendo nuestras relaciones con la nación Yakima.
Now we will have our proclamations. Director Navarro.
Yes, it's with great pleasure I read the American Education Week proclamation, November 18th to 22nd, 2024. Whereas public education is the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equity. And whereas equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas public education employees, be they educators, substitute teachers, higher education faculty and staff, custodians, teachers, paraeducators, bus drivers, clerical workers, food service professionals, skilled trades workers, health and student service workers, security guards, technical employees, or librarians work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with cares and professionalism. And whereas public schools are the foundations of neighborhoods and communities, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common purpose. And now therefore the Board of Directors of the Yakima School District do hereby proclaim the week of November 18th to 22nd as the annual observance of American Education Week. We urge all families and community members to join us in recognizing those who contribute to the future of our youth through the American education system dated this 4th day of November 2024, Yakima School District Board of Directors.
Thank you. Next, Director Villanueva will read a proclamation on Native American Month.
Thank you. It's my honor to read the Native American Heritage Month and Day Proclamation. Whereas Native Americans have inhabited the area now known as Washington State since time immemorial, and today 29 federally recognized Indian tribes, out-of-state tribes with treaty reserved rights, and other tribal communities reside in Washington. And whereas members and descendants of tribes around the United States and First Nations of Canada also reside in the state of Washington. And whereas Native American contributions and values have shaped the social, political, environmental, and economic fabric of the state, while also enhancing freedom, prosperity, and cultural diversity. And whereas state law RCW 43.376 directs the governor and state agencies to establish government-to-government relationships with tribes, to enhance and formalize working relationships with the tribes through collaboration and consultation. And whereas state law RCW 28A.320.170 mandates the teaching of tribal history, culture, and government in common schools, which will contribute greatly to improving schools' history curriculum and enhance awareness for a better cultural understanding. And whereas state law RCW 13.60.010 concerning the creation of an endangered missing person advisory designation for missing Indigenous persons became law on June 9th, 2022, which allows law enforcement to broadcast messages to the public through radio, media, and other outputs in order to help locate missing Indigenous persons and address the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. And whereas the state of Washington has designated the Friday immediately following the fourth Thursday in November as a state legal and school holiday known as Native American Heritage Day. And whereas Washington joins other states across the nation in celebrating Native American Heritage Month, honoring the unique heritage of this continent's first people and reaffirming the commitment to respect each tribe's sovereignty and cultural identity. Now, therefore, Jay Inslee, Governor of the state of Washington, hereby proclaims November 2024 as Native American Month and November 29th, 2024 as Native American Heritage Day. Signed the 17th day of September, 2024.
Thank you. Next, it's our pleasure to welcome our host principal today, Craig Smith, who will provide a presentation on Nob Elementary.
We'll do a rewind. So Thank you, members of the board and Superintendent Green and members of the cabinet. Thank you for being here. I'm excited. I have 5 slides to share with you, but you do have the full slide deck of Nob Hill School's data in your board packet. So just again, want to thank you guys for being here. So Nob Hill is a promising practice school. In all of our slides, you'll see the solution tree promising practice emblem in the upper right-hand corner. What that means to be nominated as promising practice school, we had to submit the work of our PLCs, PLTs at each grade level to solution tree. They, as well as show evidence of the data of showing student growth. And so we are extremely proud of that. We are one of 11 schools in Washington State who have been nominated as a promising practice school. And so we're continuing to move forward with that process, and I want to take it to the next level. So that's something, it's a testament to not only to our teaching staff, but it is a testament to all the hard work our support staff has given to our students. It's something that we are extremely passionate and excited about. So wanted to make sure to share that with you guys. Let's go backwards. So this is our 24-25 attendance data. And so we track attendance data very closely here at Nob Hill. Our goal is to have 95% of our students being in their seats on a regular basis, which is consistent with our district school as well. Last year, we were just short of that. We were at 93%. But currently for September, we were at 95%, and then August 95%, and September 93%, which averages out to 94%. So I have not had the opportunity to run the October numbers yet. Once I do, I will I'll add that to this graph and share that with you guys. Here is our data as a district with our 2023-24 SBA data. This is all 13 elementary schools and schools that are highlighted. So for example, the highest achieving school would be highlighted in blue. The second highest achieving school is highlighted in red, and then the third highest achieving school is highlighted in yellow. As far as that data table, how that's laid out, so it is the first 3 columns is for ELA, the ELA SBA assessment, and then it has 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then we have the next 3 is for math, again 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then the last column is for science, which is that assessment is only taken in the 5th grade. And so, for example, go back to the 3rd grade ELA. We had Robertson. They finished. They had the highest achieving for 3rd grade ELA data, and then Nob Hill was second, and then followed by Whitney. And so I'll let you have a few minutes to take a look at that data. So something that you see is Nob Hill it was in the top 3 of all testing categories. And so that's something that we are very, very excited about. But with that being said, we are not done. We're not done, with student learning. As you can see on this following slide is Nob Hill's SBA data trend. And so ELA, you can see that there was a drop off there from the previous school year. Our math goals were kind of hovering around the same area, and so we have not achieved the data, the student learning that we would like, and so we are continuing to push forward on that. One thing that we are extremely excited about is that science graph. We've really increased student learning in science leaps and bounds, and that's something we want to see in the ELA and the math SBA as well. So we're really excited about that. The Nighthawk Strong. So Nighthawk Strong is a program that is ran by our specialist team. So that would be our librarian, our PE teacher, music teacher, our counselor, our behavioral specialist. It is designed to strengthen the whole student academically, emotionally, socially. And so each year we have Mileage Club every Monday. And so our students are accumulating miles as they run around the track on our playground. And so we track that data. And we are also keeping track of the do-rights that students are doing. Do-rights meaning the positive impact that they are having at school as well as at home. So all the good deeds, they are working with their families to track that data. And then we're also tracking their academics, their reading. We're tracking how many books are read throughout the school year. And so we have a culminating Nighthawk Strong Day. And in the past couple of years, we have taken all of our students to Zeffel Stadium for them to complete the last mile in their Nighthawk Strong, in the Nighthawk Strong program. And so that is something, we gather a lot of community volunteers during this time, a lot of parents, a lot of our church partners. They come out and support our students. And in the bottom right-hand corner or left-hand corner, we have our volunteers creating a tunnel for when students enter into Zeffel Stadium. It's a big celebration. We have former Nob Hill staff members. You see Miss Kaluzny right there in the upper right-hand corner. Our former counselor also comes to help support our students. It's just a great community event, very, very exciting for our students. And I would love to have you guys come participate in our Nighthawk Strong Challenge at the end of the year. So expect that to be coming across to your guys' calendars. So that is, you can walk. I'm not expecting you to run, but no bikes. And Mr. English probably wouldn't like that on the track. So that is our Nighthawk Strong program we're extremely excited about. Again, I just want to thank you guys for being here with us at Nob Hill. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Does the board have any questions or comments for Mr. Smith?
I do, Norm. First off, thank you, Mr. Smith, for hosting us today. Love watching the data as it comes through when we visit different schools. I don't think, and I'm wrong often, they are good at correcting me when I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen a 12-point jump in data before. Yeah. And that's quite impressive. So I'd love to hear what's happening here in the science department.
Well, it started, really last year with vertical teams. So we have vertical teams with all grade levels. And so that'd be K through 5. So we have ELA vertical team, math vertical team, we have science vertical teams. And so in that work, we've gotten those groups together and really looked at the standards. Where are those standards being hit? Where are they being missed? And so that I would contribute that to the teaming of our teachers. They do an amazing job, collaborating even across grade levels to see, not everything. The curriculum does not flow from grade level to grade level. Sometimes there are missing standards. And so we try to fill in that gap, right? If that standard is not being hit at a specific grade level. So that's how we, and we also have designated science blocks where, students are guaranteed getting that science curriculum on a daily basis. And so that, our teachers are doing an amazing job meeting our students where they are and, growing them.
Yeah, I do have a question on slide 8. I'm not sure if we reviewed it or not, but it's in regards to mice. Is this Mice Savers? Results show that 24% of 2nd to 5th grade students rated themselves at risk for emotional behaviors. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that? What emotional behaviors were identified as most common they're struggling with?
That, to be honest, that is a great question. Yeah. And off top of my head, I don't have the data available but I can get it. So Mice Savers is a collection of the whole student. So it could be academic behaviors. Maybe it's that they are struggling with staying on task, meeting goals. It could be just regular behavioral data. Maybe it's getting along with peers. We focused on as a school just recognizing emotions and recognizing feelings and providing tools for our students to help move past, maybe if they are frustrated, if they're upset. What are some tools that we can give you to help you move on and continue to learn? Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to thank you for, first of all, inviting us to come. It's been a while since we've been at Nob Hill.
Always
And,
welcome at Nob Hill.
For you didn't go over it here, I don't think, but for your information about Promising Practices School, is that, is that a program that you apply for? Or is it associated with one of your partner companies, or how is it that you got connected to this?
Great question. So that is part of the PLC process, where we're doing a lot of work with Solution Tree, as far as the district wide, and we did have to apply for that recognition, and it was a deep dive in our PLC process, as well as and we had to show evidence of the outcome of that work with student achievement. And so it was a long process, but yeah, it's something we are very proud of and very happy to have gotten that recognition, and we're continuing to move forward with that.
And have you shared this? I think this came across our laptops last year.
Yes.
But have you shared and maybe discussed this with your other elementaries in the district?
It has been brought up. We have not had a sit down, full conversation. It was more a celebratory affair. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just to comment, I just want to thank you for inviting us and for sharing this data. Congratulations on that jump in the science data. That stuck out to me as well. And you're also very close on achieving the attendance data. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for your presentation.
All right. Thank you.
Dr. Green?
Several comments. I just wanted to bring up, as Director Beckett asked about the 12-point increase, and I haven't prepped you or anything, but you talked about promising practices, and how much would you say the practice of professional learning communities and the investment in that is paying off in outcomes here?
Oh, thank you for that question. I'm really excited. We are going to go on to a school walkthrough, and we're going to have an opportunity to kind of see some of that in each classroom. It has really changed kind of how we look at data and the mindset. We're looking at essential standards. We're breaking down the standards. We're able to recognize like I said, what standards aren't being met in the curriculum, and we're able to fill that. And that's done. We meet weekly with all of our teams, and we are working on that PLC process, getting that data in front of us, and how can we adjust our teaching to help all students grow. So we want to make sure that we're moving all of our students up, meeting them where they're at, and keeping them growing.
Thank you. And just noticing that your SBA data, that you're in the top 3 across the entire continuum, is very impressive. I also wanted to call out for Director Rice that what they're using here at Nob Hill as far as the professional learning community approach is across the district. The nice thing about the practice is that it allows each staff to start at whatever level they're at and progress at different rates. And I think what we're seeing here at Nob Hill is a direct reflection of perhaps the advancement of the use of professional learning communities over a longer period of time. And definitely the recognition that they've received is deserved. And we did have other schools that did apply and were not selected at this time. To be a promising practice school, you have to be in the first 2 years of implementation of the professional learning community approach. If I were a board member here, and I know we have several board members who have been in the role for quite a long time, and it can be very disheartening to see over perhaps decades or more where we're at as a district and how that has not increased in certain areas. But to see now the approach that is happening with the investment in our teachers together, collaborating and working in unison to create that, and you use the term vertical teaming, that's the vertical approach that you're using here in the transitions from grade to grade and knowing what they have learned and where they need to go next. I believe we're going to start seeing more of those outcomes and recognizing that the smartest people in the room is the room, and that we actually have the people here to get us to where we need to be collectively rather than going outside. And our investment has certainly been in our teachers in creating that space for them to work and communicate about what's working in their individual classrooms and how that can permeate to another classroom. Am I?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, I just want to make sure that we recognize, as we have in the corner, we have Aaron Thomas. And I know it's always hard letting go of your school, and Craig Smith has just picked up. He's had certainly a great investment in several years in becoming the principal here now. So I wanted to recognize that that work has been in tandem, and thank you for not missing a beat in transitioning over the last year and taking the building now with our staff here, who is just fantastic, to new heights. We really appreciate that. And I thought it spoke very highly of you when they asked, to what do you attribute that 12-point increase? You didn't say anything about removing the principal and having you now in. So I think great leadership move. Yes, you stand on the feet, you stand on the shoulders of those that came before. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Again, thank you so much. And now I believe we have time for a 15-minute tour of the building.
We do. We do. I'll lead the way. It's one of our bigger rooms.
Who knew you had so much square footage?
Right? We actually have a bathroom built in. It's awesome. This is one of our first grade classrooms. This is Miss Davis's classroom. She has done a lot of work with sign language in her schooling, and she goes over, teaches our students the sign language as well, so that's pretty cool. She's also done a lot of professional development with letters training, which has been offered by the district, and these posted walls are exactly direct impact of that training. She is all about how we are helping students their foundational reading skills. They do a lot of carpet work. This is Miss Quinzer's classroom. They do a lot of carpet work. She has the social and emotional signs and feelings down here, which you'll see throughout the classrooms. And it's just, helping our students understand their feelings and how can we cope with those feelings and get to a point where they can still learn. On the back wall here, we are having, one of our goals is keep having our students as assessment partners. And one of the big kindergarten math standards is that I can count to 100 by ones. And each one of those automobiles is tied to a specific student's learning. And so as they progress in their learning, they are moving themselves up that scale. And so again, we are wanting all of our students to grow and to learn. And so they're helping keep track of their own data. A big celebration each year is the 100th day of school. And so that's huge in kindergarten land, and we really, when they are able to finally meet that mark, it's really exciting. This is bulletin board. All of our 5th grade classrooms are out there, but to show some of their learning, they utilize this board. This is coming from our new ELA curriculum, and they were learning about the Mayan Empire, and they have a timeline with different events, and so with some Aztec, I think, calendars right there. So our teachers in 4th grade have done a lot of work with student, just kind of getting to know each student and what their cultural or heritage is. And so each student has taken home a shield and or a family tree where it helps, the teacher to learn more about the student as well as the family. And so I absolutely love this wall. Something that I did not mention in the board presentation, we have block schedules. So for example, this teacher right here is our 4th grade ELA teacher. We have an ELA science teacher, we have a science teacher, and then we have a math teacher. And so we do block schedules like that. It really helps our teachers, to get good strong practice in their instruction and grows, throughout the day. And it's been really nice to have them zero in on their core content. This teacher has done a lot of GLAD training. She brings a lot of that GLAD work in the classroom. Something that the district offered was, I'm drawing a total blank on it. What's that?
Unit of study?
Yes, well, unit of study and a 15-day challenge. And so in that 15-day challenge, they are looking at, the unit that is coming up and breaking apart the standards. And so that with that, they are mapping out their instruction on a daily basis, and they're planning where those assessments are fitting in and how those assessments are going to be tied to their learning. And so that's something that we've just started, and that had been I think we had a training like at the beginning of the school year. So they've done an amazing job just jumping in and getting the students where they need to be.
Oh, I love your standard list right here.
Yes.
Could you talk us through what how they work through
Absolutely.
the standards here?
Yeah, so this is one of the PLT ladders that we discuss each PLT meeting. And so this standard is place value, rounding, adding, and subtracting within word problems. And so each one of these dots are where the student is at. And so starting down low is more foundational learning, and then as they progress, it brings the different knowledge that they have to have in order to get to the top. And so again, this is just the students are tracking their progress, and we're celebrating those students as they move up that ladder, and it's a big deal, and they really start to take ownership of their learning, and it's absolutely awesome.
Do they know which dot is theirs?
Yeah. So
Do they?
they're each. So in our kindergarten classroom, they were numbered, but the students had written their name on these dots, and they're tracking. And they're putting that up there. Yep. So this is Miss Beckstrand's math, 4th grade math class. Again, she has done work with the 15-day challenge, breaking lessons apart by the standard, and working on filling student gaps. Again, a lot of lab work where she goes over different models with the students. I love coming in here because they do small group work in math, and the students are at the carpet. She'll ask a question. You can see them, so they know where to look, for that answer, for that discussion piece. And so I really like that. We also have multiplication is one of their foundational standards. It is a standard that they need to have to be successful from really 3rd grade up. It's a necessity. And so again, just like the one outside, their students are tracking their progress through the multiplication standard, and they are just going to continue working their way up. Check the red zone.
Yeah.
What can we do to help? So it's a conversation. It's pulling you aside. It's a conversation. Maybe it's something that the student is coming to school with from home. Maybe it's something that happened on the playground. And so we check in. maybe it's more support that that student needs today. We can send them to a counselor. They could go talk to a trusted adult. We give them strategies to help get them from that red zone into that prime learning zone of the green zone.
So we have, staff is aware of a student that has been identified and handled with care for the
Yes.
day. So
Yes.
if they've had the police interaction the night previous, they already know coming in, but you
Yes.
actually might have one of those kids come in and say, that they're not in the red zone or not, they're not indicating, but we still have that kind of watchful eye out for them.
And that is, I'm glad you brought that up, because that handle with care has been an amazing tool for us. It gives us an early jump on, how our students are coming to us each day. And it's not necessarily that we go interrupt their schooling, we just go check on them and see, it could be just a walkthrough by me, a walkthrough by our behavior specialist, counselor, and just checking in and letting them know that if they want to talk, we are available to them. So that is a great program. I'm glad you brought that up.
Welcome back. Thanks again for a very informative tour. It's nice to see what's going on in the classrooms and the degree of you can get a sense for the activity that goes on, the degree of organization and the richness of what's on the walls and the resources. And it's really fun to see how much teaching has changed in the last 20 years and how much it's improved. Okay, next up we have former board member Berenice Ponce reporting on the Parent Partnership Program.
Hello? Yes, please. Actually, in a minute. Thank you. All right. Well, as you can see, you get Kirsten Fitterer presenting on Board Policy 2180. Bernice Ponce, who is in a position that I will describe here in a minute, is out ill today. So our best wishes to her for a speedy recovery. First, I have a couple of housekeeping things and how this is going to go, just to get everybody organized. So I am here to speak about Policy 2180, but I also want to reference a couple of other things, and that is OP 4130, which does also dictate some things that we do with parent involvement. And then wanted to bring to the board's attention that we do have different positions that do support this work. Currently, as you know, we have Berenice Ponce, and she is a full-time employee, but she is 50% Title I dedicated to parent and family engagement, and then 50% with migrant. So another part of housekeeping with this, so that you know kind of where is homework and which slides I will go over today. The title slide, which we're on now, just talking about some housekeeping items, is number 1 in my mind. I'm not sure how it's labeled here. And then I will go over slides 2, 4, 5, 7. And then I'm also going to loop back around to some parent square engagement that we talked about at the retreat when you guys had come individually and talked to different directors, because that is an element of engagement that impacts this policy. For homework, you have slides 3, 6, and 8. All right, so the first slide, we have our family and community design principles. And some things that I just wanted to bring out to your attention on this one is, this is kind of where the Yakima School District values that it takes a village, and that the family is the critical part of that village in a student's education. And so the design principles take you through this continuum of building relationships with the family all the way to the hope of developing capacity to take action to support children in their work. And Dr. Green's administration has brought a great investment into supporting this policy, even though there has been some needed cuts during this last year, this last budget cycle, there still is a large investment in this with our family and community, our family and our parent and student liaisons, which I will talk about, but to get all the way to that developed capacity to take action. And you might remember from previous administration too, Dr. Irian would talk about how families presented at the Yakima School District, and sometimes he'd refer to that as they had different levels of knowing how to play school. And we all had that different level. I know even I have a 27-year-old son, but even as a parent that wasn't a staff member in education at that time, I came with a different lens than I might now have going through education as a staff member. So we all present differently. Now I want to talk about the, that's a homework slide. So the student and family liaison, we've talked about our professional learning teams, and we have different employees that are called student and family liaisons. We have 11 district-wide. They are all funded currently by Title I Part A. And just to remind our audience, that is when we have a high number of students from low-income families, we have a Title I Part A funds. And so those folks are funded through that. And Berenice's position does help with onboarding and supporting those positions. So that is a lot of what she does. She has currently conducted some workshops and training for that onboard and support. One is the QPR training, which is question, persuade, and refer, and it's a suicide prevention training, home visitor safety training, behavior principles training, Skyward and EduClimber, or just Skyward, I don't think we have EduClimber anymore, and the family engagement best practices. So she conducts all of that and supports those positions in that way. Now I'm on that slide, thank you. So the Parent Advisory Committee, I know that a lot of you have heard of that. We have them for different programming, and we have them for migrant. We have starting a new one for multilingual, starting a new one for Native American. But the one that she is referring to here that reflects the policy that we're going over is the YSD Parent Advisory Committee. And so currently we are recruiting some more members of the Parent Advisory Committee for YSD. And the PAC plays that key role in working together and collaborating and co-designing how we'll work together and getting different perspectives on different programs and initiatives in the Yakima School District. So I think you guys remember recently we did have some of our PAC members here and we honored them. And then the picture on the left is them actually conducting their work as a PAC. So like I said, we're currently recruiting some more positions. I believe last year, the majority of our PAC members were Spanish speakers, so we're hoping to have some diversity and add some English speakers to that as well. And so that is part of what Berenice is working on. They will then have 2, possibly 3 meetings this school year. So the next slide is our second annual back to school event. But I did want to point out that there's one of the homework slide that is a video. And if you have not already taken the time to look at it, I hope you will, because it's a really telling story about the continuum that we learned at the very beginning of how a parent came to full capacity in supporting her student. So I'd love for you to be able to watch that on your own. So I know that a lot of you were at the second annual back to school event because I was there as well. This is actually last school year, not this school year, because we did have budget constraints this school year. And this is where we gave out so many backpacks and we had dinner. We had over 800 attendees at that district event. So there were a lot of school-wide events on back to school, but not necessarily a district one this year, but we do hope to resume that next year. And you might be asking, well, where did the backpacks? How did they get to the children? We still had those because those were donated and we gave those to the different counselors for needs-based distribution. So students still got their supplies and their backpacks. So I'm going to also have the migrant family slide be a homework slide because we do have a dedicated presentation on the work for our migrant families. And then the feedback and assessment slide, which I just want to point out is from our migrant families that work in our Saturday workshops. But it's really important for you to know that the surveys are done at every PAC meeting, at every workshop, so that they can then make the next one even better and more specific to the needs of the families. And so I hope you will take a minute to look at the feedback and assessment and just know that we do then change the next workshop or meeting to what is best for the parents. So lastly, I want to talk to you about the Parent Square engagement. I am sure you all remember meeting with me at your retreat, and we talked about the 3 things that were going on in communications and engagement, of which Berenice was a part of that. So we talked about streamlining communications and enhancing engagement. We talked about 3 things with the different budget cuts and things that we were going to do to make sure we hit this year. So one of those was increasing our Parent Square registrations. And at the time, we had some baselines for you, and I want to show you how our schools are working to achieve a higher level of data and get towards our goals. So if you remember, we had a baseline of 66% for elementary parents, 49% for online parents, and 56% for secondary parents. And these are parents who have signed up for Parent Square and are engaging in 2-way communication through that platform. And so if you look at what Barb just handed out, on the first page, we have registration data. And so what we're comparing is the elementary baseline was 66% at the time of our last meeting. And you can see that it's now at 71.43%. So we are growing in that area of engagement. You can also see that online has had a little bit of a bump from 49% to 50%. And then secondary has had a bump from 56 to just over 60%. So that's what we like to see, is those parents engaging more and more digitally, because that is a very efficient way for communication. And then if you flip it over, we only had 10 minutes to talk before, so we didn't get a chance to go through this very much, but I want you to know that there's different ways that parents can choose to be communicated with. And that can be through emails, through text message, and through Parent Square app notifications. So this data tells you how they're choosing to be communicated with. So they can choose all of these. So families at Adams, for example, could choose emails, text messages, and app notifications, or they could just choose one of those 3 or 2 of those 3. So this data is meant to give you an idea of how people are choosing to be communicated with. And that is the end of that presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Kirsten? Thank you.
I have just one, Kirsten. As far as the parent advisory committee, as far as the recruiting for that, is there some spot on the website where it describes what that looks like, so that if we have somebody, we can kind of link them to it?
That's a great question. Yes, there's a family and community engagement part of our website, and they can navigate to that from Connect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Are we still having like the big PAC meetings like we used to have, like at Washington Middle School? I remember were very well attended.
Yeah.
What kind of a participation are we getting in those?
You're talking about the Migrant PAC meetings, I
Yes.
believe. And when I speak about the calendar of events, I will tell you that there's one coming up this Thursday, and those usually have about 600 to 800 people. I know Hector is here, can explain that in even greater detail.
Thank you. I'm glad we're maintaining that level of
Yeah.
attendance. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And now I'd like to welcome Anthony Murrieta, giving us an update on RIF positions.
Thank you, President Walker. Normally, I prefer to just speak, kind of shoot from the hip. but because of the details that were involved with this, I'll be reading, so apologize if I'm a little awkward here. In March of 2024, the Board of Directors made the difficult decision to enact a reduction in force, or RIF, to maintain a balanced budget for the 2024-2025 school year. Following continued financial strain, the board took additional measures in July, implementing the mid-year RIF that impacted 180.5 total positions. Since then, our team has worked with resilience and determination to reduce expenses while protecting as many jobs as possible. Through realignment, partnerships, and alternative funding sources, we've been able to safeguard numerous positions. For example, 19 para-educator roles equating to 12.34 FTE were transitioned to positions left vacant last year. Additionally, support from our legislature allowed us to increase migrant program funding, saving another position slated for reduction. Over the past 7 months, we have collaborated closely with our labor partners, including the Washington Education Association, the Yakima Maintenance Association, and Teamsters 760. Together, we explored creative solutions such as shared work programs and grants, which help cover expenses typically funded by basic education, ultimately preserving another employee's role. I'm pleased to report that after all certificated staff affected by the RIF have either been recalled or secured employment elsewhere, 10 assistant principals and 1 assistant superintendent received non-renewal notices in January of 2024 for the 2024-25 school year. Additionally, 5 directors and 8 custodial positions were lost through attrition, bringing the total reduction of 23 added to the 180.5. Although these individuals have transitioned into new employment opportunities, I recognize the undue stress and hardship and inadequate funding. That inadequate funding and this subsequent process caused them and their families, and for this, I extend my sincere apology. As of today, out of the 193.5 FTE impacted, only 10 employees remain without employment. Want to repeat this information as it merits emphasis. As of today, out of the 193.5 FTE impacted, only 10 employees remain without employment. This includes 2 office support group staff members, 6 custodians, and 2 members of the Yakima Professional Technical Association. In total, payroll was reduced by approximately $20.5 million. While I'm proud of the efforts we made to support our employees through these transitions, I am mindful of the challenges and sacrifices that the RIF has imposed upon our staff. Thank you to the support as we continue to work with legislatures for equitable funding solutions while managing our resources with care and to serve the students and the families of the Yakima School District. Do you have any questions or comments?
Any questions or comments from the board?
Anthony, of those 10, I know that there were, in your process last spring, folks were given opportunities to take advantage of other jobs within the district that they might be qualified for. Of those 10, are those folks, were the jobs for those folks not available, or did they choose not to take advantage of the opportunity to move to a different kind of job? Or
It's kind of a loaded question, and I'm going to try to answer that to the best of my ability. If an individual was going to make more money on unemployment than they would of an available position, that individual might have chosen to take the unemployment over securing a position with less wages. This is more than just a hypothetical. I've had this conversation with more than one employee, and the explanation was simply, if I can't make my ends meet, it doesn't matter to take a position that has the continuation of health insurance and other benefits because I can't make my ends meet. So it just depends on where they're at. Several of our employees were offered alternative positions. Several of our people who were offered to be recalled chose to take positions in other districts because they were offered comparable positions. So such as one of our assistant principals was hired as a principal in a neighboring district. One of our directors was hired as a director in another district. But if the individual was working, say, 260 of a full year FTE position and was offered a 2/3 to 3/4 time position, it was going to have an impact on their monthly wage. So they weighed coming back, which last Friday was officially the first day of the RIF from July. So some individuals took the position, some individuals would take the position and hold their right of recall. Some individuals would just say, I'd like to be removed from the seniority altogether because I'm happy where I'm at. Ultimately, I want to be really clear that there were a little over 190 employees that were impacted by it, and all but 10 are either working with us or have secured other positions and made the conscious decision to break their seniority or look to see what opportunities would be made available next year. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I had one question. There was a previous meeting, there was a conversation about numbers of custodians and the drop of custodian positions. But the question I had was when we went through the COVID, and in order to keep bus drivers employed, we put some bus drivers in some custodial type positions. Did that artificially raise the number of custodians we had on staff, which were then reduced once they went back to being bus drivers again?
no.
Okay.
During COVID, we exercised what was called shared work.
Mhm.
And at the time, that was funded through the feds, through the ESSER, either 1, 2, or 3. And this time around, it was explored, but it was no longer federally funded. So we did exercise that with 2 of our bargaining units, but based on the funding levels, we were very limited. So that has been utilized as well. And again, the continued employment is through that process.
Okay, thank you.
So it was a bag of tricks. I mean, it was everything from, is there a comparable position that we have for you? Is there a shared work leave that is available? Is there another position which you may be qualified for? All the way up into the point to where our HR director out of classified contacted one of the OSGs, and she was put to work at Ike on October 31st. So, I mean, all the way down to the deadline, we're still attempting that, and we will continue to work through this process, hopefully getting everybody either back to work or accepting a position that is satisfactory to them. I also want to be very careful how I say we make those offers, because we want to ensure that we're not negatively impacting anybody's unemployment.
Thank you. I have one other question too. Does, now that we should be completed with the October count. So do we have a sense of, are we going to be okay without having to make further reduction in force throughout this school year?
I'm going to let Jake answer that.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you the same thing we tell our employees. Departments make their decisions, and then HR works to mitigate those decisions.
Director Walker, members of the board, it is too soon to tell. So we have ending fund balance. We just closed the books last week, so they were due the 25th, I guess the week before last. We have preliminary, and we have 2 months of enrollment. So I'll be able to provide you that information, at least skeletally, the direction, pre-legislature, sometimes in late November, early December. And I'll have some of the first budgetary math done, because I need to project enrollment for fiscal year 25-26. I'm just in the process of doing that right now. So once the enrollment is projected, and then we'll update it with all the new funding drivers. And of course, the biggest obstacle, hurdle, I guess, advantage to some is the legislative session that is to come. And there's just, as Martha and all you know, there's a lot of water to go under that bridge. But so we don't know yet, but things are still going to be very tight.
Thank you. For Mr. Murrieta. Okay. Moving on. Members of the board updates.
I have maybe a question or request. When it comes to the comments, public comments, I'm just wondering, is there, excuse me, could the board, because oftentimes the questions and requests for information come to the board, so I'm just wondering, could we get copies of any responses or notification? Because I know there have been several in the past board meetings, business meetings, or the evening ones or the business meetings for maybe some grievances and so forth. I'm just wondering if we can get any notification or what the response was, because I kind of feel responsible when the community comes to the board asking the board specifically for information or for grievances or whatever. So I'm just wondering about that.
The answer is yes. I have been delayed in responding to some of those presentations, but the board will be BCC'd the responses.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have like a, 10-day or 2-week response time or?
2 week, and that
2
has, and I apologize, that has not been fully met.
Okay, no problem. Okay. All right, thank you.
And there's a large volume of responses. We've had many presenters.
Again, I was just wondering if we're responding or not, so, but you clarified that. Thank you.
I do have one update. I got to spend, what day was it? Friday, I believe, at Wilson Middle School, and assisting with their math goal setting with students. So I worked in 2 different classrooms and met a significant number of students, and it was really interesting and really rewarding, and students really take it very seriously. And so that was just a really fun experience to be part of that process. And I believe there were some other, some of our directors from downtown also participated in that process at Wilson. So that was a great opportunity to get out and meet students and work with them on setting their math goals. Any other board updates? Okay, Dr. Green.
Thank you, and I would like to thank President Walker and Director Rice for not stealing my thunder. I thought for sure they would talk about navigating public education funding, which was on the 24th of October. Yes, I'm calling that out. It's my thing. Okay, thank you. So on October 24th, at the Davis Performing Arts Center, we held an evening event, which was facilitated by Dan Steele, Assistant Executive Director of Governmental Relations from WASA. Our opening speaker was TJ Kelly, who brought us up to date from post-McCleary funding and current fiscal challenges. And our culminating speaker of the event was Dr. David Knight from the University of Washington, Associate Professor of Education, Finance, and Policy. Very well recognized through the legislature, Seattle Times, school board members. And he took us through a session on redesigning Washington's public school finance system to be more equitable and efficient. He had 3 focal points, which were very well received. We had board members and superintendents from at least 4 different districts. We had 2 union leaders from our own ranks out of the 10 or 11 different bargaining units that were present. And just had a wonderful session and really appreciate the contribution that was made from OSPI and having TJ there, having, as I mentioned, Dan Steele facilitate and also provide commentary, in which he did share at the end of the session that we have over half of our districts statewide are in financial duress, which was the first time I had heard a statement to that magnitude. And then actually did share with the attendees that when you have that type of number, that there is something obviously wrong with the funding system that we do have in place. Wonderful event. We look forward to potentially duplicating that next year and seeing that grow. I don't know if there's any other ancillary comments from either Director Rice or President Walker.
I just thought it was really informative. If you have a chance, did we send those videos out to all board members?
There was a video link to a news article that happened that I did send out to everyone.
Right.
I do have the slide decks that I could certainly send out to you as board members. I did share those with superintendents and boards that attended. So I'll send you TJ Kelly's information and Dr. David Knight's.
Yeah, even without even just the slides themselves, they're pretty informative. I mean, it was really good to have the kind of the back end of that with the presenter, but there are some of those slides that I had not seen before, and they were quite illuminating for board members. So if you get a chance to look through those, please do that. I'm surprised that we didn't have better attendance from Valley board members or superintendents, but we did get some press coverage on it, so.
Well, thank you. One of the things that was called out that according to Educational Trust, Washington provides 3% less funding to districts serving the highest percentages of students of color. So just right off the bat, we are starting well below the percentage of many other districts, around almost 2,500 per student less. And that certainly impacts how we are able to provide services. One of the points that Dr. Knight called out was that in a meta study, they identified that actual funding does matter. It does culminate to effect size and outcomes. So it was really interesting to sit in that and hear the research components around funding and identify that there are things that we can do as a state to rectify the situation, but it takes a much larger group than those that we had present. I was very pleased with the turnout that we had, even though it was small, and I'm sure that if we continue to have this year to year, it will grow in importance and people will see a connection. Certainly every superintendent that I spoke with shared that they would be back next year if we offered this again. I'll move on to the second topic, is that okay? Perfect. The second topic was that I want to share is about UW, University of Washington Ambassadors Program, or the Ambassador Group. You may or may not know, I know that a couple of you do on the board, know that I am one of the College of Education ambassadors for the University of Washington. That has resulted in networking that has just been profound in what we can do as a district. I was able to attend a session this last week, and it was on October 30th. And in that session, well, one of the things that really has come from that is our relationship with the University of Washington and the early learning cadre that we now have, the fellowship that we have with our elementary principals. That is focused on inclusion, family, community engagement, and also wellness. It is being sponsored by the Balmer Group, which is upwards of $100,000 of training easy that we are receiving as the sole participant, the sole district that's engaging in that early learning fellowship. And that came about through the connections in the ambassador program. The reason I share that now is that even in meeting last week, I was able to connect with a couple of potential opportunities. So these are just in the initial conversation stages, but I wanted you to hear what is potentially out there for us. One of them is the opportunity to engage with a Dr. Svenchek, who is focused around the utilization of social emotional measurements to gain insights on the well-being, attitudes, and belief of students, in creating a social emotional report card that travels with the student and their learning environment from grade to grade or class to class. It is a self-administered assessment tool that they are looking to pilot. If we pursue that, we're going to have an initial conversation. I've already reached out to Omar Santoy, who'll be part of that to just explore that opportunity. Not all of these pan out, but there's certainly wonderful opportunities that can certainly make us better together. The other potential opportunity is in working with Dr. Mia Soon, who was awarded, she's a doctor in the University of Washington, and she just recently received an Institute of Education Sciences grant for $10 million. To start a center which is called Amplify Gain, and they focus on AI and the work around AI and impacting mathematics particularly. I was able to reach out to her as well and explore those potential. We have a meeting with her on the 20th of November to explore if there's any opportunity in connecting there and piloting any of their work and their research. So we continue to see these wonderful opportunities that are really for the first time that I've seen in my career extending across the Cascades to the east side. You very much see these partnerships on the I-5 corridor with the accessibility of all of the districts right there up and down from Seattle, north of Seattle, down to Tacoma and beyond. But now we're starting to become a district of choice on the east side of the mountains for particularly the University of Washington, which is, again, speaks highly of the connections and opportunities to make a difference for our students in many different levels. The other item that I'll share with you is that we do have a session planned at a speaker coming to the Yakima, the Davis Performing Arts Center. It's a guest speaker. His name is Adam Beach. He's an Indigenous actor and advocate. He has performed on roles such as in movies of Smoke Signals, Flag of Our Fathers. He was born in Manitoba, Canada, and really gained prominence through those roles. We've reached out to other districts in the area to provide an opportunity for them to send Native students to participate in the visitation of Adam Beach in the session on November 21st. He runs very expensive for a speaker of that magnitude. So it's actually a partnership with Heritage University, the Cougar Den out in White Swan, Legends Casino, and Rotary of Yakima. To be able to host that and to use our auditorium as that base site. We are expecting members or students from Yakima Tribal, Wapato, Toppenish, as well as Davis, Eisenhower, and Stanton to attend that event. So that's on the 21st of November, 9:30 at the Davis Performing Arts Center. The additional item that I have for you is that we do have also an opening celebration for the Davis Performing Arts Center. And to share that information with you, I've asked Kirsten Fitter to come back to the mic, and she is actually extending an invitation to all of you as well. And for one lucky winner, we would like to have a speaker if you would so be willing. So we don't need to know who that speaker is today, but certainly be thinking about that opportunity. Kirsten.
Thank you. Well, as you all know, there have been many opportunities for different audiences to see our new Davis Auditorium, and it has been wonderful. We have had a graduation there. We have had different events there. Our student body has certainly seen it. Our staff has certainly seen it. The play is upcoming, so members of our community will see it. But we haven't had just an open house to celebrate the opening of the newly remodeled Davis Auditorium. So that is planned post-fall play, and that will be on December 4th. It will, of course, be at the Davis High School Auditorium. It will start at 6 p.m. and go about an hour, hour and a half. It was important to the committee, and the committee was members of Davis staff, the communications and engagement staff, and our facilities staff, as well as keeping one important community member and past board member up to date on our efforts. And it was important to all of us to have student participation, board participation, superintendent participation, and of course, our Davis principal. So you can see here in our proposed agenda, this is a draft agenda, although it's pretty finalized. We will have different elements from the staff, the students. We will have a video presentation that you, I think, have all already seen. And then we will have some performances. So there'll be a small choir performance and a small band and or orchestra performance. There will be also a reception, but not food and drink in our new auditorium. So the reception will be following the event in the Davis Commons. So we just have a few next steps that we're working on. Heather, Principal Hasty, is working to connect with her boosters and her music teachers. ASB, she wants to have as greeters and then her student leaders for the student introduction of the video. I have briefed Dr. Green. He's had me brief you tonight. And I have also briefed Ms. Taranta, who has been very helpful in coming up with some details. And then we have our next meeting tomorrow, and that will be to create our promotional materials and our communication plan. Any questions? You'll notice on this draft, number 8, closing remarks, does have a placeholder for a special school board member. So that's the part that you would get to win. So we'll let you guys talk amongst yourself to determine who that might be. Thank you in advance.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Any questions of Kirsten before she completely sits down?
I'm back. Yep.
No? Okay, we'll be in touch with you about that speaking opportunity. And if you have any questions that come up about the schedule, please don't hesitate to reach out. Last item I'd like to share with you is that this Thursday, I will be out of district for part of the day, attending the 2023 Washington STEM Summit Luncheon. I was fortunate enough to be a panelist 12 years ago when they had the first STEM luncheon over in Redmond at the Microsoft campus. This is the 12th annual, so I don't know what I did that first session to get barred for 11 years, but I'm back. And it's an opportunity to collaborate and network, share programmatic highlights and updates. We're celebrating the 2023 Rising Star awardees, and they will announce the 2023 Legislator of the Year, and along with honoring our governor, who, surprise, he may be that individual that they select. The panel that I'm attending is focused around STEM. There are 4 panelists. We have 40 minutes, so it'll be basically a quick hitter, probably 2 questions. The reason that I'm really excited about attending is because one of the things that I shared when they reached out, when the people in charge of organizing the event, they said, we want you to speak at this STEM luncheon. And I said, well, we have some things that are really happening around STEM, but I also want to recognize that there are districts that have much more opportunity around STEM than we have in our district. So I wanted to be very realistic about where we are as a district. And I asked them if they were really sure about me speaking at their event, because I would be very truthful with them about what some of the issues are that cause some inequities across our system. They were still interested, so I really do look forward to engaging in that panel session and directing the focus of part of the conversation, at least the part I'm involved with, on how we are impacted in Yakima with the inequitable funding that we see, in citing some of the work of Dr. Knight and what I shared with you previously, the discrepancy right off the bat when you're talking about districts in Redmond where the event is taking place, or next door in Bellevue or Lake Washington, versus someplace like Yakima, Granger, Mapton, and what the discrepancy is and what that means as far as opportunities. So I will tread lightly, as Senator Wellman is one of the panelists, so I want to make sure that we keep those doors of opportunity open. She has certainly been a friend of education and is somebody who can change her mind if presented with the right information. So we will continue to build those bridges of collaboration towards approaching a different funding model in the state. And it's no secret that I've shared with you that the group in which I'm engaged at the University of Washington, the superintendent group, and I mentioned previously that House Ed Chair Representative Tomiko Santos was part of that last session that I attended. We are very focused on having a longer term plan on changing the model for funding across the state of Washington to be more equitable. And that's certainly a daunting task. And it's about a 5 or 6 year plan. So you got to start somewhere. And each of these different sessions and meetings, and even our financial session that we held last week, all contribute towards people understanding how that impacts our students across 295 districts. That culminates my share out this evening. I will draw one more item of attention. You should have a hard copy update of the special education status of our 3 focus areas, and you'll receive another update in December, and I look forward to having Casey Mitchell share out more in detail. He's here today, but he knows he will be back up in front of you to share and answer your questions about that, but we wanted you to have a tangible update in hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we would like to welcome back Kirsten Fitterer to highlight the calendar for us.
kind of the Kirsten show tonight. All right, so for some calendar items, I want to tell the community that we have some upcoming YSD school board meetings on November 19th at 7 p.m. at Central Services. And then in December, we do have our school visit, just like we are having tonight at Nob Hill, but that will be on December 2nd at 4 p.m. at MLK Junior Elementary. And then a business meeting on December 17th at 7 p.m. at Central Services. As I mentioned, we do have a migrant family engagement night. That's not open to the public, but to our migrant families, and that is from 5 to 7 p.m. this Thursday, the 7th, at Washington Middle School. We also have our city home sporting events. Since there's just one, I will mention it. It's on the 8th, and it's Davis football versus Pasco High School at Zepfel at 7 p.m. And then I did announce this last time, but our comprehensive high school plays do open this week. So we at Davis High School, we are presenting Clue on stage, and that opens this Thursday, the 7th at 6:30 p.m. Tickets are $15 for adults, and students and senior citizens are $10. And then Eisenhower High School is presenting If the Good Lord's Willing and the Creek Don't Rise. And that also will open on Thursday, the 7th at 7. As reported from the school, adults are $12, students are $10. YSD students are free on Thursday. And ASL interpretation will be at the performances on Saturday at 2 and at 7. So we hope to see you and our community at our fall plays.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions or anything to add to the calendar? Okay, we have now arrived at our first opportunity for comments from the public on agenda items only. Do we have any registrants? Okay, moving on. Next up, we have approval of collective bargaining agreement between the YEOP and the Yakima School District, and we also have approval of the collective bargaining agreement between Teamsters Local 760. You did receive, I believe, prior to this meeting, a detailed description of the changes in those contracts. So you want to present those, Mr. Marietta?
Yes, thank you. The requested action is that the Board of Directors approve the agreement between Teamsters Local Union 760 and the Yakima School District. This aligns with our strategic goal number 2. The fiscal impact for the 2024-2025 school year is $86,988.67. The adjustments for the following years, IPD, will be subject to determination by the legislature. Bargaining with Teamsters Local 760 Transportation has completed, resulting in a 3-year agreement. This would include this 2024-2025 through the 2027 school years. There's a wage increase of 3.7 plus 0.5% for a total of 4.2 for this year. IPD or 3%, whichever is greater in years 2 and 3 of the agreement. I would like to thank the bargaining team for the drivers, James Hartshorn, Kim Olson, Julie Stevens, and Secretary Treasurer Richard Salinas, and the bargaining team for the district, Olivia Martinez, Chris Miller, Art Rodriguez, and Richard Porter. Questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Murrieta? Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Yakima School Directors approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Yakima Education Office professionals and the Yakima School District as presented.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the YEOP contract. I'll just add one comment. I had the opportunity to go through the contract in detail with Mr. Miller from Human Resources, and I find that the change is very acceptable, and I would advocate for approval. It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I just wanted to apprise the board that I will recuse myself from this action item to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest.
So, excuse me. Sure. I really hate to correct you here, sir. It was the Teamsters 760 agreement that we're voting on, that I reported on. The YEOP comes next. So you did mention that you went over YEOP with Director Chris Miller. So pardon the confusion.
Oh, okay. I thought we were voting on the YEOP one first.
It's first on the agenda.
I'm sorry, then the confusion was on me that I had read the Teamsters 760
Okay.
agreement,
Okay.
and I apologize, sir.
Okay. And by the way, I did review both of them in detail.
Do we need to redo the motion? As I think the motion was for YEOP.
The motion was for YEOP. I don't think.
So
Then
do we withdraw?
Would you,
it?
no, would you like me to read the YEOP agreement so that you're voting on the right information?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is totally my mistake.
Percentages were all the same.
They were, one was a 2-year agreement, the other was a 3. So this one is the salary for the increase to the 23-24 salary would be $243,050.30, effective 2024-2025. And then the second year would be IPD or 3%, whichever is greater. The Yakima Education of Office Professionals bargaining team was President Jeanette Tejeda, Candy Stubblefield, Christy Calkins, Nikki Navarro, Rosa Gonzalez, Janet Beck, and Ellen Simonis. The bargaining team for the district was also Olivia Martinez and Chris Miller. So with that information, please continue with your motion. And I, again, apologize for jumping the gun here.
I thought we would be able to cover them both in one motion, but apparently we're doing separate motions. So we do have a motion on the floor to approve the YEOP agreement. It's been moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Recuse myself.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker. Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. You understand that was a
Motion
recusal. It was a
excuse
4
me,
to
yeah, she
0.
said 4-1.
So it passes 4 to 0 to 1 abstained. Sorry, that was my bad.
Just to clarify that, yeah. Okay, next up, we do have the other agreement, the Teamsters Local 760 agreement. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approves the agreement between Teamsters Local 760 Transportation and the Yakima School District.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreement between Teamsters Local 760 and the district. Any other questions or discussion? Call the roll, please.
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And just an additional comment to thank the people that worked on those agreements on all the parties. And I do love those 3-year and multiple year agreements. It just makes life better for everybody concerned. So thanks again to all the hard work. We now have a second opportunity for public comment.
There are no comments at this time.
Comments this evening. Moving on. Next up, we have some policy governance issues. We have approval of 1000.2.5 asset protection rating. And I do believe 4 board members responded. All categories were met with compliance, no outstanding comments. And do I hear a motion to approve 1000.2.5 asset protection?
I move approval of 1000.2.5 monitoring report for asset protection as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve asset protection ratings. Any further question or discussion? All in favor, say aye, or I'm sorry, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett. Director Navarro Jr., Director Rice.
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva. President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next up, we have 4 first readings. I believe those were assigned prior to the meeting. So next up is whoever is doing global governance commitment, 1000.3.0.
So the purpose of this policy is to ensure that the Yakima School District achieves appropriate results for all students at appropriate cost, and all administrative operation of the district will be delegated to the superintendent to operate and manage in accordance with those policies numbered 2000 to 6000. And that's a quick summary of that policy.
Any quick comments or observations from the board? Okay, we'll submit that for a Survey Monkey, I believe. When we would expect that by Friday? Okay. Next up is governing style, 1000.3.1. Who's summarizing that for us?
I am. This is a pretty comprehensive policy that details the ways in which the Yakima School District Board of Directors will govern themselves to comply with legal obligations as well as guidance from WASDA. It's probably one of the more important policies that we have because it helps keep us out of trouble with all sorts of people. I'm not going to read this, but there are important things for board members to take note of as we review this. First, it's the list of 3, 6, 8 areas of emphasis that the board will follow in order to govern appropriately. And then there are 7 disciplines that the board has put upon itself to make sure that that we operate in an appropriate manner and in order to represent our community. No, there are 14, I'm sorry, not 7, 14. And then as we get to the end, this is a 3-page policy. The board will observe confidentiality of closed or executive sessions, and that's the last of the ways in which we choose to operate. This is something that we've reviewed before. I don't believe that there's any need for changes to this, but I am but one member.
Any questions or comments on this policy? I would encourage you again to read through it in detail before you respond to the Survey Monkey, just to make sure that, because it is important in how we function, just to make sure that you're in agreement with what's in there, or if there's anything missing that you think should be added. Okay, next up will be policy 1000.3.2, board job description.
Policy 1000.3.2 has a job description and 5 bullet points. And in summary, the job description is that the key function and job of the board is to represent the community and lead the organization by determining and requiring excellent organizational performance. The board will fulfill the following 5 functions. Responsible governance. The board envisions the future of the school district's educational program and formulates goals, defines outcomes, and set the course for the school district. The board employs and evaluates the superintendent. The board is committed to excellence in governance. Bullet point number 2 is creating conditions for student and staff success. This includes employing the superintendent and setting high instructional and learning goals for staff and students. Number 3, high expectations for student learning. The board articulates the belief that all students can learn and that each student's learning can improve. Number 4, accountability for staff learning. The board's accountability for student learning includes adopting a system of continuous assessment of all conditions affecting education, including assessments for measuring staff and student progress towards goals. The public will be kept informed about programs and progress. Number 5 is community engagement. The board works to advance the community's vision for its schools. That is but a brief summation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any requested deletions or additions? Okay, again, that will be sent through the Survey Monkey for us to respond to. Last but not least, policy 1000.3.3, agenda planning.
The agenda planning policy outlines that the board will follow an annual agenda, which includes examining student achievement, examining organizational performance, improving board performance through board education and enriched input and deliberation, and reviewing the ends goals policies. The planning cycle concludes on the last day of October. The cycle begins with the board's development of its agenda for the following year. The planning calendar includes consultation with selected groups in the community or other methods of gaining input from the community, board development and training, scheduled monitoring reports, and superintendent contract renewal and conditions.
Thank you. Again, any questions or comments? Okay, Barb will send us those Survey Monkeys and we'll respond by Friday. I believe there's no need for executive session tonight. Anything else for the good of the order? No. Okay. No. So, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.